I bought myself a boyfriend in college. His deal was simple. Stay with me and I'd cover his family's medical bills. This proud, brilliant scholarship kid swallowed his pride and stayed with me for 4 years. Then my family went bankrupt. When I broke up with him, he was ice cold, not a word of protest. Years later, I was bussing tables in a karaoke bar, drowning in debt, and he was a tech millionaire, dating our class homecoming queen. He asked me, "Do you regret it?" "No," I said. "But I do," he replied. I never thought I'd run into Ethan Jones again, especially like this. As I set down the fruit platter, I kept my head down, terrified he'd recognize me. Ashley Bell, the homecoming queen, sat beside him. They looked perfect together, a real power couple. "Excuse me," Ethan called out. "Could you cut the oranges?" My back to him, I sliced the oranges into thin wedges. A long time ago, when I loved oranges, Ethan always cut them for me. He was meticulous about it, each slice perfectly uniform. Back then, I thought it was a sign of affection. Later, I realized it was just a habit. He could be thinking about anything while cutting those oranges, anything but me. 4 years felt like a lifetime. Somehow, the conversation drifted to college romances. Someone said, "I heard Ethan had a girlfriend all through college." I froze. Ethan hummed in agreement. "Wow, for years. That's your entire college experience." Ethan didn't respond. The guy, sensing the awkwardness, pressed on. "Must be pretty unforgettable, right?" A heavy silence hung in the air. Finally, Ethan let out a soft laugh. "Not really. He was just being polite," Ashley chimed in, her voice smooth as silk. "We went to the same school." It was. Well, let's say it was tough on him. If it weren't for his ex, we would have been together a long time ago. "Of course, Ashley, you're a celebrity. No ex can compare to a star." The atmosphere lightened up. I pulled my cap lower, desperate to escape. The fruit knife slipped, nicking my finger. I hissed, drawing attention. "What was that? Can't even cut fruit properly." Ashley complained. "I'm so sorry, I'll get a fresh platter," I mumbled, grabbing the dish and making a dash for it. "Wait." Ethan's voice cut through the air, sharp and clear. "Turn around." My feet were rooted to the spot. 1 second, 2 seconds. My manager appeared, saving the day. "So sorry about that. She's new and still learning. The fruit platter's on the house." She winked at me. "Go get a new one, quick." I escaped. "Be more careful next time," my manager told me later. "Everyone starts somewhere. But if you get a complaint, you won't get paid tonight." "Thank you," I breathed. "No problem. Be extra careful with that VIP room. They're all important guests, especially the young, handsome one in the middle. He owns some fancy tech company. Someone we can't afford to offend. I'm kind of scared. Could you take the oranges in for me?" "Sure." I let out a sigh of relief. If there was anyone in the world Ethan Jones had every right to be offended by, it was me. I was the ex he so readily dismissed. I remember freshman year. Ethan stood out in the crowd of new students, his faded clothes a stark contrast to everyone else. He was undeniably poor and undeniably handsome. I loved the cool, quiet tone of his voice, the way his eyelids lowered when he looked at me. Ethan desperately needed money. Some connected kid had snagged the scholarship he deserved. So one evening after class, I boldly grabbed his hand. "Ethan, I like you. Go out with me. I'm pretty loaded. We can share my allowance. Or if that's not enough, I'll pay you for a kiss." He refused, of course. But back then, my life was a breeze. I didn't understand the meaning of rejection. The more he pushed me away, the harder I pursued him, until his grandfather, the man who raised him, fell critically ill. Without hesitation, I covered the medical bills. Ethan finally gave in. I foolishly thought I'd done him a huge favor. Much later, I realized I'd gotten what I wanted, but at a terrible cost to him. Even after we started dating, Ethan still worked every day. He barely touched my money, but things only got worse. Rumors spread around campus. They said he was selling himself for money. People looked at him differently, whispering cruel nicknames. Oblivious, I'd hold his hand and say, "Don't mind them, they're just jealous." I lived in my ivory tower, completely unaware that Ethan was fighting a battle all alone. Senior year, my family went bankrupt. I didn't tell Ethan. I simply called him and said, "Let's break up." "Why?" he asked. "I'm bored." "Okay." And that was it. I imagine he was relieved, finally free. That same day, I tossed my SIM card, deleted my social media, and boarded a train to another city, ready to work off my family's debt. I didn't return until 3 months ago. Ethan seemed to be thriving. He was always brilliant, the kind of genius who made everyone else in our department look average. Just 4 years after graduation, he was a tech entrepreneur featured in business magazines. Ashley, our class homecoming queen, had started her acting career in junior year. I never imagined they'd end up together. Good for them, I thought, pressing a hand to my chest to quell the sudden ache. 4 a.m. My shift ended. I was the last to leave. My coworkers, assuming everyone was gone, had turned off the lights and shut down the elevators. I jabbed at the elevator button, hoping to bring it back to life. "Call someone." Ethan's voice startled me. Stiffly, I called a coworker. The elevator whirred back to life. Ethan and I stood in the confined space. "You guys work this late?" he asked, his tone neutral. "We can't leave until all the guests are gone." "Pays well, huh?" "It's okay." I stared at the floor, my cap hiding my face. Ethan, seemingly not recognizing me, made small talk, then checked his watch. "This elevator is slow. My girlfriend's probably waiting. She's a real clinger." It hit me that he was talking about Ashley. "What about you? Working this late? Doesn't your boyfriend pick you up?" "I live close by." The elevator doors opened. I bolted out. Ethan, calm just moments before, exploded. "Running away again? Where do you think you're going, Maya Evans? Disappearing without a trace? Think it's funny?" Ethan closed the distance between us, his steps measured and deliberate. He was still the boy I remembered, but the boyish softness had been replaced by a sharp, controlled maturity. "Deleted your social media, disconnected your phone. Even your professors couldn't find you. You're quite the magician, Maya." Slowly, I raised my head, meeting his gaze. "You must have used your connections, right? My family went bankrupt. My dad's caught in legal battles, still hasn't paid off all the debt. Why didn't you tell me back then?" I was speechless. "Too proud, Miss Evans." "No." Before I could finish, Ashley appeared. "Oh my God, Maya, it really is you." She was even more stunning than in college. every hair perfectly in place. Long time no see. Everyone's been looking for you. Why haven't we heard from you in 4 years? I was down south. No wonder, Ashley said, eyeing my clothes with surprise. Maya, isn't that the down jacket you bought junior year? It's practically falling apart. Why are you still wearing it? I used to throw out clothes after a single season. Her question was a deliberate jab, but I was numb. It's still fine. Still wearable. Ashley nodded knowingly. Are you having a hard time? You should have said something. Old friends can help each other out. She pulled out a card. Take this. You don't have to pay me back. Thanks, but I don't need it. I looked at her, then at Ethan and smiled faintly. I'm getting married soon. Be sure to come. The words hung in the air, leaving Ethan visibly shaken. The karaoke bar was just a side hustle. I had a day job too. On Monday, a new client arrived at the office. My coworkers were buzzing. Heard this guy's a genius. He originally designed this software to find someone. Who? His ex, I think. My stomach churned. A bad feeling crept in. Did he find her? No idea. The software's not finished yet, but investors are pouring money into it. Huge potential. That's why our boss wants to partner with him. I gathered the necessary documents. Ethan's voice drifted from the meeting room. I need to think about the partnership. I pushed the door open, placing the files on the table. Ethan's eyes locked onto mine. What are you doing here? Working, I replied. This was my main job. My boss looked curious. Maya, you know Mr. Jones. I hesitated, then said, we've met. Just met. Ethan's voice was tight with anger. I couldn't understand his anger. Wasn't he the one who walked away without a second thought? He pointed at me. Mr. Lee, I'll sign the contract on one condition. Maya Evans becomes my personal assistant. My boss agreed instantly, not even giving me a chance to object. They were in meetings all day. In the evening, I grabbed my bag, ready to leave. Ethan blocked my path. Where do you think you're going? I haven't dismissed you. Mr. Jones, I can't work late today. I have somewhere to be. Where? I have to deliver food. Ethan stared at me in disbelief. I used to be the kind of princess who wouldn't touch takeout. For 4 years of college, Ethan worked as a delivery driver after classes. His dinner was often just the free meal provided by the delivery company. One time I went to see him. He was crammed in a tiny room with other drivers, eating rice out of a styrofoam container. I said, Ethan, how can you eat that? It's not hygienic. His expression was strained. Does it matter if it's hygienic or not? Come on, let's get some steak. I dragged him to a fancy new steakhouse, where the average meal cost over $70. He stood outside the restaurant for a long time, silently taking off his delivery uniform. After my own fall from grace, I finally understood how he felt that day. Just like today, it started to snow. The ground was slick. I fell spilling the food. I called the customer to apologize, but he just yelled at me. He said, I don't want excuses. Late is late. My scraped palm stung in the cold, but I couldn't stop apologizing. Suddenly, Ethan appeared, riding my bike. I didn't know how long he'd been there watching. I instinctively hid my hands behind my back. Don't hide them, he said, his voice hoarse, his eyes red-rimmed. Go clean them up. I need to deliver this order first. Get in the car. I'll take you. The customer lived on the ground floor. As I handed him the food, he muttered, seriously? Dude driving a Porsche delivering takeout. I had another delivery waiting. Ethan said, don't. I have to. I haven't made much tonight. Then I'll buy it. What? A notification pinged on my phone. He placed an order, assigning it to me. I'll buy your time for tonight.